Welcome to Extraordinary League, an actual play RPG podcast brought to you by Smash Fiction. I'm Dan Mulkerin, your game master. Playing Stitch is Kit Mulkerin.
Since our Nico left us, I found a new place to dwell. It's down on the end of Lonely Street at Heartbreak Hotel.
Playing Dante is Liz Logan.
Who will I share my emo style with?
Playing Luna Lovegood is Megan Bob.
Dear Nico, my mom used to say that what we lose has a way of coming back to us in the end. I wish that were always true. I know I can't send this to you, but I had to tell you. Somehow, that'll keep the rest of them safe as I possibly can. You gave us all a chance and we can't really repay you for that, but I can promise you that I will never tell anyone about normal shoes. I'll only tell the best stories about you and tell them that you are the greatest witch I've ever known. Love always, Luna.
Playing Mordin Solus is Claire Mulkerin.
I've grown accustomed to her face. Oh, God. As strange and human as it was. I learned the meaning of a pie hole and the connotations of an eye roll. Her constant expression of passive aggression. I learned the strange coherence of her alien appearance, and it started to irritate me less, though she did still cause me some stress. My true love was physics and logic before we met. Surely she hasn't changed me all that much, and yet I've grown accustomed to her face. I've grown accustomed to her shrugs, accustomed to her face. I'm very grateful she's a human, and so easy to forget. Rather like a faulty theory that one could discard, and yet I've grown accustomed to the use she had within the field, and accustomed to her face.
Previously, your mission to Phyrexia finally reached its cataclysmic end. You escaped the parasitic plane with the gem you sought, as well as with Godzilla, the former Green Praetor, who you managed to cure and recruit to your side. Your victory wasn't without loss, however, as your friend and teammate Nico Minoru pushed herself to her limit to help you escape, but wasn't able to make it out herself. You've spent some time recovering back in Castle Grayskull. The other members of the League share your mix of triumph and loss. There's only one gem left to find out there in the multiverse, but looking for it can wait. Right now you need to rest, recover, and reflect. We open in the infirmary. Mordin is sitting in a chair, glancing around the room at the weird juxtaposition of medieval castle architecture and ultra-high-tech otherworldly machines and devices, a setup not unlike his own lab. Mordin has been waiting for several minutes like this before a figure appears in the middle of the room a few feet away. It's the emergency medical hologram, a projection that resembles a balding middle-aged human male wearing a teal and black uniform. Dr. Solus, I've finished running the tests and, well, I won't insult your intelligence by trying to sugarcoat it. It doesn't look good.
Figured just seeking independent verification.
Yes. The radiation you were directly exposed to has been unexpectedly destructive to your Solarian biology. When you factor in your species' faster metabolism, allowing the damage to spread more quickly, and the fact that we simply don't have access to the normal medicinal substances that Solarians would use for treatment, I'm sorry. We can maybe try to slow things down, but I'm afraid you just don't have much time.
Didn't have much time to begin with.
Is there anything I can do?
Well, on my personal computer, I do have an extensive library of research papers and books that I've written on medical theory, so you could always try to incorporate that into your programming. I mean, I think a hologram of me walking around these parts after I was gone might be a little ghastly, but if you were to peruse those, you might learn something.
I think I just might. Thank you, Dr. Solus.
Mordin's gonna nod and leave the room, sort of, head still held high and that kind of thing. And once he's gone kind of out of the sight of the hologram, I think he's gonna just kind of collapse to the ground a little bit and just kind of sit in a ball for a second.
You're there in the hallway alone with your own thoughts for some period of time when you feel a hand on your shoulder. And looking up, you can see that Luca is standing next to you.
Luca, sorry. Mordin gets back up. Trying a new meditation technique, supposed to help with problem solving.
I see. What problem are you working on right now?
Well, the head that we recovered from Phyrexia, what do the readings look like? Did the mass spectrometer finish its analysis, or...?
Yes, the materials that compose it are relatively conventional, all things considered. The machinery inside is, well, it's not especially sensical, which I guess makes sense given that it's designed to replicate magical spells. It's going to take some time before we can fully understand the way it works, but I'm relatively optimistic. I have quite a bit of knowledge of magic, as you know, and I think that we can probably make something work out of it. It'll just take some time.
Yes. So Mordin's going to start walking back with her to the lab and say, so I heard a rumor, just humor me. Someone told me you invented a teleporter when you were 19?
Oh, yes. Well, it accidentally ended up becoming a time machine, but that was a completely different matter. That wasn't what my original intention was.
Okay, and your world doesn't have, like, calculators, right?
That's correct. We were still largely pre-industrial. It was around the year 1000.
Mordin's going to put a hand on her shoulder and say, good to have you in my lab.
Well, thank you, Mordin. It's good to be in your lab. Now, is there anything I can help you out with?
Well, what you've told me about the spectrometer readings don't give me a lot of hope. I had a theory, but I'm going to have to kind of discard it now. So we're back to the drawing board. I don't really know what else there is to do today. I would say we could just go home, but I'd like us to do something. You know, there's another project I've been wanting to work on for a while. I haven't really had the time. Would you mind helping me out with something else?
Oh, no, not at all. I often find that working on another project helps free up some mind space, unclutter things when I'm working on a larger project. So certainly, what did you have in mind?
It's a device that's a bit different from the sorts of things I've made in the past. Missing a part for it that we haven't been able to find a suitable replica for, a control panel. Might be something suitable in one of the junkyards here on Eternia. I didn't know if you would be open to doing a little salvaging with me today?
Oh, sure. Do you have some specs in mind? I actually have someone that I occasionally go to on Eternia who collects strange little gadgets and other items of technology whenever they cross over. I found him to be a very reliable source.
Sounds sufficient. I will explain you the specifications on the way.
Very good. So Luca explains that her contact is in the Eternian city of Taran. You guys can pick out a vehicle from the League's garage and start heading in that direction if you want to tell me how you guys are traveling.
What do we have when it comes to Mario Karts?
I imagine you guys took all your carts from the Mario universe.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Mordin didn't have one because he didn't go on that particular
if I recall,
adventure.
Vivian and Nico had a two-seater. We'll take that one.
So you guys are Mario Karting your way across the Eternian landscape.
Luca, forgive me if this is too personal of a question, but been thinking a lot lately about life and what comes after it. And curious, what would you do if you only had one day to live?
One day?
Of course, this is theoretical, just, to put a point on it.
I have so many projects that I'm working on at any one time. I'd probably try to triage, see if there were any I could finish before my time was up. Maybe try to ensure that the other ones that I was working on would be in. And she kind of stops and thinks and says, you know what? I think I'd probably just spend the day with my friends. Yeah, I think that's what I'd do. Why? What would you do?
This.
I'm sorry, Mordin.
I don't have an exact time frame, but hopefully it's longer than at least a few days.
She nods and says, well, I'm here for you to help with your projects or if you just need a friend. So you all arrive in the city of Taran, this city of towering spires, lush gardens, some friendly but well-armed police patrolling the streets. She explains that her contact is an individual by the name of Moneybags, who apparently owns an establishment in this city called Elite Services and Uncommon Finds, which is a small little shop on one of the upper floors of one of the many tall buildings here. The two of you walk up, you enter past a pair of polite but burly guards, only to find an almost identical pair of polite but burly guards on the opposite side of the door. Moneybags' office is small but well-appointed, almost painstakingly so. He's clearly cultivated a wide variety of valuable-looking paraphernalia to be conspicuously displayed to potential clientele, and a large window looks out over the spires of the city. He himself sits behind a mahogany desk. He also happens to be a slightly anthropomorphic brown bear wearing a suit jacket over a white dress shirt. He has a monocle and no pants. He is also carrying a large bag conspicuously marked with a symbol of some sort of green gem on it. And he says, yes, come in. What precisely can I do for you?
Dan, I have no idea what this is, but I do like it. Good job, whoever created this character. Also
it's a good
Dan.
character design for sure.
Yeah, Mordin's going to approach him and say, looking for a control panel with these specifications. Mordin is going to, projects a litlittle hologram out of his Omni tool.
Moneybag stands up, looks over the hologram, stroking his furry chin with the hand that is not actively carrying the bag full of gems, and says, yes, as it happens, I've come across one device that should perform all the specifications you're after. It's in excellent condition. I still have it in stock. It will cost you a mere 100 gems.
Mordin turns to Luca and says, do you have any gems on you?
I have a few. This is what he usually trades in, but I kind of spent most of them on another purchase that I made. Don't have 100 for sure.
Okay. Mordin turns back to the guy and says, do you accept any other forms of payment?
Well, suppose if we are stooping to the barter system, that device on your wrist that you showed me the projection with, I suppose that would do.
It's not so much on my wrist as in it, but with some work it could be removed. But I suspect it's worth more than probably everything in this room, so that's not going to happen.
Well then, I just don't know. If you have something else of value that you would like to trade in, then I suppose that's fine.
He's going to eject the 4 vials of metagel that he has with him and hold them out to the guy. This is a substance known as metagel. If it is injected to the bloodstream or even just administered to the skin, it will immediately dive into a person's body, spread throughout it, and analyze and treat a wide array of medical conditions. Most moderate injuries and illnesses can be treated in a matter of seconds. It's far more advanced than any of the medical technology that's native to this world.
Mordin, give me a reason check with a bonus for treatment.
That is a yellow.
Moneybags looks quietly elated by this trade that you have offered up, but is doing his absolute best to keep his enthusiasm in check and says, well, I suppose if there's no other way, then this trade should do just fine. He turns to the guards in the back and says, boys, see that this gentleman gets the device that he's looking for, and be sure to take his payment from him on the way. And the 2 guards step up to you, one of them holding out his hand for the metagel.
Cool, yep, I hand it over.
And they take you off to retrieve the control panel that you came here for. We now find ourselves back in Castle Grayskull and check in on Stitch. What is Stitch currently up to?
So Stitch is taking Nico being gone kind of hard. One day, he's sort of roaming around Grayskull, sort of aimlessly with Lace and Lil Wex. They find their way to Nico's bedroom. He just sort of realizes that he's standing in front of it, and he decides to go in. Actually, is it unlocked?
It is locked.
It's not locked anymore.
Okay, sure. The formerly locked door opens, perhaps with a crash. Yeah, you step inside Nico's room. You see that it's small. It has a single bed, several bookshelves, a desk covered in thick books and scrolls, and numerous drawings and symbols and pages of writing that are strewn on the desk, on the floor, occasionally pinned to the walls. Looking around more closely, though, you see that there's a number of items that are more suggestive of Nico's life before. You can see posters of bands that are presumably from her world. Beneath the scrawl-covered pages, there's a small collection of colorful plastic ponies that are lined up in one area, and there's a single framed photo of a slightly younger-looking Nico with a handful of other teenagers.
Stitch is actually gonna go over to where that photo is sitting, and jumps up onto the stand and grabs it, and Lace pads over to him and gives a reassuring snort, sniffing the photo, maybe recognizing the faces in there.
Well, given that Lace is in the picture, yes, she does.
Stitch, he sort of holds the picture up to her and says, "Is that you?"
Lace cocks her head very confused. As Stitch and Lace are considering this, Stitch, you hear the little squeaky roar from across the room, and you see that Wexter has gotten up on top of one of the shelves and is just sort of walking across, like knocking over everything in front of him as he does so. And you see that at the end of the bookshelf is a red and white Pokeball. This one, though, you see is actually covered in arcane symbols, and it has a note taped to it that says, "Extremely dangerous, do not open." You see this right as Wex knocks it off the shelf.
Oh.
The ball hits the ground and opens. A visible whirlwind bursts out and begins to move around through the room. Papers are torn up from the desk, ripped off the wall. Nico's bed is tipped over. Her books are scattered around chaotically. The whirlwind continues to spin and wreak havoc for a second or two before it stops spinning and reveals itself to be a creature, which lets loose this strange nonverbal tirade. Blah, 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 blah. The creature is taller than you, but a bit shorter than a normal human. It's covered in fur, which is dark brown on its back and sides and light brown on the front. Its face is animalistic, but very expressive, with a very large toothy mouth. It stands on two legs, has two skinny arms, and a pair of tufts of hair on top of its head that are reminiscent of devil horns. It looks around the room momentarily, sees you, grins, and then resumes spinning at an impossible speed. It barrels into the wall right next to the door and cuts cleanly through, leaving behind a hole in the shape of the creature as it goes into the hallway.
Stitch sort of looks into the middle distance and can practically hear Lilo telling him what he should do. Stitch looks over at the two dinosaurs and says, "Come on," and runs through the hole in the wall.
So, despite the speed at which it's moving, the creature isn't impossibly hard to catch up with, as it seems to zigzag around, like pinging between things that catch its interest momentarily. Wherever it goes, though, it leaves destruction, as it's apparently able to chew its way through solid objects almost instantaneously, and you're passing by many toppled shelves and wrecked stonework in your effort to pursue this creature. You catch up to the whirlwind in the hallway just outside the kitchen. Doc Brown is stepping out of the doorway as you approach. He's carrying an improbably large stack of dishes, topped with some very delicate-looking glassware. He turns his head and spots the brown whirlwind coming at him. His eyes widen in fear, and he freezes in panic until the creature sideswipes him, sending him stumbling and causing the plates and glasses to slide, tip, and begin toppling off the stack. What do you do?
Stitch runs up the wall right by Doc Brown, extends his two extra arms, and tries his best to use all four arms to keep these plates upright. And he's like, "This is the opposite for what I was made for."
Stitch, roll me some agility, please.
It's not what he's made for.
All right, there's a gigantic crash as glassware and plates alike crash to the ground, with the exception of, I will say, 4 plates, which Stitch has managed to grab. And yeah, you can hear the sounds of chaos coming from the kitchen now. What do you do?
Poop. He throws down the last 4 plates. He jumps off of Doc Brown's head and just starts scampering for the kitchen.
So you run into the kitchen and you almost trip over the door to the refrigerator, which has been torn off and thrown across the room. You see the creature sitting in front of the fridge. It is shoveling Lunchables into its wide open mouth, packaging and all.
"I'm gonna get blamed for that, and I didn't even do it. Give me one of those Lunchables." He's just gonna charge at this thing. That is a red.
Yeah, you go barreling full speed into this thing and knock it like a pinball off of several walls before he comes to a halt with like a circle of stars visibly around his head as his eyes roll around dizzily. He then shakes his head, the stars disappear, he glares at you, and then spins towards you. Stitch, you are picked up in the whirlwind momentarily. The two of you sort of erupt into this fight cloud for a second, and then you get thrown out of it. You fly through the wall, and then the creature goes spinning out of the kitchen. You leap back through the hole in the wall. However, the other side of the wall contained the League's laundry room, and you happen to fall into a clothing hamper, and you are now wearing a strange outfit. Would you like to describe what outfit you ended up in?
Okay, let's see. We definitely gotta have... let's say Zelda's bra on his head as a little cap. I'm gonna say maybe Ranma's top as like this weird like cape that he's wearing. He looks himself over and he's like, and then he gets into superhero pose. This will do.
So you continue chasing the creature. You see that it's actually run into the League's garage and auto shop, which is a large space with vehicles from a bunch of different worlds, along with tables and machines and cabinets full of spare parts. The creature is zipping around from one surface to another, curiously chewing on a wrench here or taking a pull from an oil can over there. Ultimately, it doesn't really find anything particularly interesting here, so it begins spinning again and heads for the exit. However, it passes close to one vehicle in particular, which is a black souped-up police interceptor, the rear end of which is propped up by a jack. And Stitch, you can see Mad Max's legs sticking out from underneath as he's performing some kind of maintenance on the underside of the car. And you see the moment when the whirling creature knocks into the jack and sends it wobbling dangerously and threatening to dump the car directly on top of Max, who's underneath. What do you do?
He is going to try and catch that car and use karma because I guess this is kind of his fault.
You did take a tiny baby T-Rex into a wizard's room, so, roll me a strength check, please.
Green is probably enough, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep, you managed to catch the car before it drops on top of your Australian friend.
Stitch catches this vehicle and he's just like, ugh. Max, put a new jack.
That was a close one. Thanks.
Oh, I mean, you're welcome. Please put something here.
I don't know, you're working pretty well.
All right. Stitch flips the car onto its side. I gotta go. And he runs out. And Lace sort of runs past Max, giving him a little thumbs up and like making an I'm sorry face, and then runs out.
What a weird car, Jack.
So, Stitch, you continue chasing the creature through the castle. You follow it through the holes that it leaves in the walls, and eventually you find it in the hidden throne room of the sorceress Flemeth in the center of the castle. The creature has stopped moving for a moment, looking around the high-ceilinged throne room for something to eat or destroy. In its looking around, it eventually turns around and fixes its large eyes upon you and grins an eager, toothy grin. What do you do?
Hey, all that stuff you were doing, that's my job. So Stitch is just gonna blink twice and then go. And he just charges at the devil.
All right. So the two of you race towards combat again when this creature is suddenly lifted up in a glowing, coruscating field of energy and held a few feet in the air. He flails wildly, but it's clear that he's unable to move anywhere. And you see that walking in with her hand outstretched is Flemeth. She regards this creature curiously before looking over at you and saying, "And where exactly did you come across this particular creature?"
Nico's room.
I see. And where in Nico's room was it exactly?
In a ball.
And you opened this ball?
No.
She looks over at the creature pointedly and then looks back at you.
I did not open the ball.
She looks like she's going to, continue this line of conversation, wisely thinks better of it, and instead turns back to contemplate the creature again and says, "As I recall, Nico at one point decided to help out some of the local Eternians. Some farmers were being tormented by an otherworldly creature that had shown up during a crossover. This creature was devouring crops and destroying buildings, essentially menacing their entire way of life. She came to me asking if I knew of a way to capture and store such a creature temporarily. I told her that I did, but I asked why she didn't just kill the creature and be done with it. She seemed to believe that it was probably just confused and scared and doing what it usually did. 'Twasn't its fault that the world it ended up on wasn't equipped to deal with it. I enchanted one of those capture orbs that the young boy from Nexus City uses so that it could contain the creature in suspended animation until Nico found a world that she felt like she could set it loose on. It was curious. Even after all that would happen, all that she had seen, all that she'd been forced to do, she still held out hope that not every threat needed to be met with lethal force."
Is it another cousin from Jamba?
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh. Never mind. So he's just gonna go back in the ball?
Well, I suppose that is an interesting question, isn't it? What do you think should be done with this creature?
I don't know. What's it like in the balls? Venusaur stays there sometimes.
Yes, well, I can't say what it's like in there normally. The spell that I placed upon it essentially keeps the creature in a state of torpor. It's sleeping.
I'll try to find a world for it. Maybe we fix the Phyrexia stuff first. That would be a scary Phyrexia.
Her eyes widen as though she hadn't considered this and says, "You know, Stitch, every now and again, I think you might be the smartest one out of all of us."
Doy. I just don't apply myself. And then he walks out of the room.
We now turn to Dante. Dante, you've decided to take it upon yourself to put together a memorial service for your lost teammate Nico, as well as for Raceland, who was lost at the beginning of your last mission. Several other members of the League have volunteered their time and effort to help you with these efforts, and the time is drawing near to the event itself. You and Michonne just picked up a large supply of alcohol from a nearby Eternian town, and you're now driving back in one of the League's transport vehicles across the rocky expanse back toward Castle Greyskull. I assume that you are probably driving?
Oh, of course.
I figured that was a safe assumption.
Now that he doesn't have to fight with Stitch over who gets the driver's seat.
Yes. Yeah. Michonne looks over at you from the passenger seat and says, "So, Dante, what exactly are you planning for this event?"
Well, figure I'd give a speech. I watched some videos of funerals and memorial services, and people like to give speeches, so I'm going to give a speech.
Oh, God.
All right. Do you have an idea as to what sorts of things you're going to be saying about her?
Probably things she wouldn't agree with, but she won't be there, so it's going to make me feel better.
She kind of like furrows her brow and says, "I see. Did you have any other ideas aside from saying things that Nico wouldn't agree with?"
Well, I guess we should all share our deepest feelings about how we truly felt about her to help us in the healing process. I'm not very experienced at doing these things. I don't really have a lot of friends.
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, that group that you traveled into Phyrexia with seems pretty close to you.
Yes, but I don't know if they'd consider me a friend.
Why do you think so?
Why are you asking me these questions?
I guess I just wonder, I'm sorry for asking this question. Have you lost someone before?
Wasn't prepared to have a heart-to-heart in this awesome 900 horsepower vehicle we're driving, but I think I can swing it for you, baby. Yeah, I did lose someone. My mother, she was a great woman. My father, he was kind of a demon, but he saved the human world. And my brother, who was also kind of an asshole, but still my brother. Yeah, my whole life is defined by loss, actually.
Have you had much of a chance to mourn those people? Have ceremonies like the one you're planning?
No. I usually just bathe in the blood of demons. What have I become?
Well, this is difficult, and mourning is different for everyone, but I think what you should do is try to come up with things that will remind everyone of the friend that they lost and help in the grieving process. But I'm sure that whatever you come up with will be fine.
I don't know about that anymore. I don't think Nico would appreciate everyone doing macaroni art, but...
Now, you didn't mention that to me.
Well, now I'm rethinking everything. This is really difficult.
Well, maybe that's for the best. At this point, Dante, you feel the ground begin to vibrate rhythmically, growing in strength with each pulse. You glance at the side view mirror, and you can see an enormous creature resembling a purple and red Tyrannosaurus Rex racing across the landscape toward you, with its mouth open eagerly.
Barney?
It's going... That's a purple and green T-Rex, Dante.
I know it is, but maybe I forgot.
This creature is going to be overtaking you in seconds. What would you like to do?
Ah! I put on my blinker to move over for this. And I wave my hand, say, yeah, pass me.
This is where Dante's responsible. This one place.
Oh my god.
The creature runs up alongside the transport vehicle and begins ramming into it bodily, attempting to tip it over. You can hear the sounds of bottles of alcohol breaking in the cab behind you.
The monster truck rally is next week. What are you doing?
Michonne says, "Dante, can't you fight this thing? Isn't that kind of what you do?"
Do we really want another funeral?
Well, I can't fight it. I don't have the soul edge.
Why do we have to kill everything now?
Well, what do you suggest?
Let me try talking to it.
All right. What are you planning on saying to this thing?
Listen, I know you may have had a hard life. Clearly you're angry. Why don't we pull over and talk about it?
Dante, roll me a psyche check with a bonus for persuasion.
Ooh, Dante's true feelings are coming out. Yellow.
The creature actually, looks at you strangely, seems to actually think over what you said, and then just nods.
I didn't expect that to work. I pull over.
So you step out of the vehicle. The creature is looking down at you warily and says, "How is it that you speak my language?"
Magic. Oh my god, did Nico do this to me? Did she give me magic dinosaur speaking powers?
Michonne says, "Pretty sure it's the translator that the Phyrexians installed in you."
Oh, fuck. Hello, Barney.
Excuse me? Is that your name for my species?
What do you call yourself?
I am a Tyrantosaurus.
Excuse me, what?
A Tyrantosaurus.
A tyrant? That's not a good name. People usually don't like those things,
It is a name I carry with pride, for I rule these wastelands.
You rule wastelands. That's something to be proud of. Waste. Waste is in the name. I'm sorry. We're getting off on the wrong foot. Or the wrong claw foot. I don't know. What
No, we call it feet. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, I just lost a friend, and we've just fought so long, and I didn't want to fight you. If you met me an hour ago, I would have wanted to cut your throat with my sword, but I'm a changed man.
No, you wouldn't have. Come on.
I'm a changed man, Barney. I mean, whatever, tyrant. Can I call you tyrant?
No. I think Barney is growing on me, actually. I like it.
That's
It sounds
nice.
Is that the name of some great warrior, perhaps, or a warlord?
Yes. He mesmerized many people the world over.
That does sound like my kind of warlord.
So, anyways, I lost a friend, and she probably would have found you fascinating. And I feel like you might be a new friend to me. Would you like to come to her funeral?
You just met me. I attempted to kill you, and you are inviting me to the funeral of a friend.
The power of new friends.
You know what? Sure. At this point, you're the first creature outside my species I've ever been able to actually speak to. And, apparently, from the looks of things, you're going to have a lot of booze there. So, I'm willing to see how this plays out.
You like drinking? Do you have a favorite drink?
There's different types of drinks.
Oh boy, we're gonna have a great time.
So, you drive off with this large purple dinosaur following behind. Michonne looks over at you and says, "Dante, I did not at all see that working out. What is going on here? What just happened?"
I'm a changed man.
She looks at the T-Rex in the side view mirror and says, if I had the Soul Edge with me, I probably would have just jumped at that thing and tried to cut its head off. But right then, before you pulled off your weird negotiating tactic, all I was thinking was run and hide, As much as I hated my time living in Phyrexia, it was kind of cool to be able to use this thing that I felt like I could just kill anything that I came across when I was holding that blade. And I gave it over to the magic users of the League for safekeeping, and I've been sleeping a lot better lately, but I don't know. I guess it's not easy giving up something that powerful, even when you know it's the right thing to do. And she glances over at your robot hand as she says this.
Well, I had Frostmourne once, and that drove me to do very scary things. I'm glad I gave that up. And then I lost my hand. So much loss.
How do you deal with that? How does it not eat you up just thinking about what it is that you've given up and how much stronger you could be if you hadn't? Even knowing what it did to you,
what the fuck are you talking about? This is a Terminator hand. Of course it's better than my other hand.
She looks at you, looks at your hand, and then just throws her head back and laughs and says, "You know what? Maybe that's the solution. Maybe I just gotta get myself one of those."
You're silly, Michonne. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. I'm the silly one here. Our next scene opens in a world that we left behind not long ago. The world that contains the Mushroom Kingdom. The area that we see, however, isn't as green and lush as the Mushroom Kingdom itself. This is a rocky and mountainous area, dotted with deserts and the occasional field of tough scrub. This is where Luna Lovegood finds herself, along with Fiver, the small precognitive rabbit that the League rescued back in Nexus City. Luna, how are you traveling through this land? Are you riding your broom? Are you maybe riding Venusaur? Are you just walking? Or is there some other way that you're heading through this area?
Right now, Venusaur's out and I'm on the broom, and Fiver is riding on Venusaur's head.
Fiver turns his head to look at you from Venusaur's head bobbing up and down and says, thank you for giving me a chance to go out and see some other worlds, Luna. It was wonderful being nice and safe in Castle Grayskull, but I keep hearing stories of these different planes, and, well, it's just good to be able to experience them for myself for once.
Well, you're more than just the power that you have, and I know that we ask you to do probably a lot of things, but you're a member of the League, too.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so. It's a little intimidating standing shoulder to shoulder with you beings that possess such immense power, and, well, there's only so much I can do, but I try to contribute where I can.
You're probably the most powerful one of all of us.
Well, I don't think that's true. I know that I'm useful, but my being here alone isn't sufficient to do what the League needs to do.
Well, none of us are Optimus Prime, but aside from him, you're very, very powerful. Does Elijah tell you how powerful you are? He should definitely tell you how powerful you are. Probably every day.
No, he more just sort of reminds me that I need to keep watch on Phyrexia, which I do quite a lot, actually, but, well...
Are you okay? Because that's not a place I would ever want to keep watch on.
You know, I've heard the stories of what you and your friends just went through back in Phyrexia. You lost people, you were surrounded by enemies that wanted you dead, you had to endure things that I could never imagine. And you ask me if I'm doing okay? Luna, I'm fine. I wish that I were bigger and stronger and braver so that I could do what you and your friends do, but I'm not, and I can't, so I do what I can. I focus on Phyrexia and make sure all of you have the best chance that you can get against it. It's not always easy. Nothing that any of us do is easy, but it's necessary. I'm just looking forward to the day when it's not necessary, when we all get the chance to just, I don't know, relax, be friends with each other with no other strings attached, no enemies to fight.
That does sound nice. I meant to ask you, back whenever we just landed, well, not whenever we just landed, but whenever we first landed, did you get to taste the grass?
I did. It tasted, how shall I say this, pixely? I'm not sure that word occurs to me, but that's what it was.
Sorry, I'm just trying to imagine what pixely grass tasted like. Now I'm kind of wondering what these rocks taste like, because I've definitely tasted rocks before whenever I was small, but I do not think I want to try rocks now.
Well, I'm sure we could probably find some more conventional fare for you that might agree with your stomach a bit more. I suppose that's one more thing we can check off once we come across this friend that you wanted to speak to. Speaking of which, if my senses are correct, I believe we are getting close to this person. They should be rather close nearby. As Fiverr says this, you can see a town comes into view up ahead. It's built into the side of a canyon with gray doors and windows built directly into the side of a cliff face, hundreds of feet tall, connected by ledges and walkways. You can see milling about the area, going about their business, are the various races that you recognize from your time in this world. There's Goombas, Koopas, Chomps, Piranha Plants, many others. Those that you spot either ignore you or regard you with polite curiosity, with one or two of them even waving or smiling at you as you approach.
I wave at a chain chomp. Does it wave back?
It just kind of looks at you. I mean, chain chomps don't have anything they can really wave with, so...
They're like doggies, probably just bark back.
Yeah, it like wags its chain.
What a good boy. So he's around here somewhere.
Yes, I believe so.
He's fairly big. Probably bigger than everybody else. So I guess they would know him. Luna goes up to a Koopa. Excuse me, have you seen Bowser?
The Koopa looks at you, friendly at first until you say Bowser, and then he kind of furrows his brow and says, "You must be new here, right?"
Yes.
Well, okay. So this is Monstro Town. This is a village of monsters who, being down to our last one or two extra lives, we've decided to move away from a life of, well, you know, being a monster. I'm fairly certain that Bowser isn't here, as, well, most of the people that live here were trying to get away from him specifically, and we don't exactly have very fond feelings of him. A lot of us worked for him as minions for a while, and he's not a kind person to work for. But I mean, if you're looking around for someone, you can always try the bar. And he points at an establishment that says the Hammered Brothers above the door.
Is there anybody around here who's taller than everybody else? Maybe brawnier than everybody else? But maybe wears a hat a lot? Dark sunglasses?
Not that I've seen. I would ask around at the bar.
Okay.
Most of the people pass through there. You might be able to figure out who it is you're looking for.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, sure.
Luna goes over to the bar.
So you can hear the sounds of raucous laughter as you approach the door. Walking in, you see a long, low-ceilinged room with several tables and chairs, and a bar against the right wall. Looking around, you see a poster of Bowser hanging on the wall, and there are several darts sticking out of his face. You can see a large crowd of monsters has gathered around one table in particular, and seems to be cheering on a pair of people engaged in a very intense arm wrestling match. One of them is an especially large and muscular Koopa. The other one is a light-skinned blonde woman who looks entirely human except for her visible fangs and horns. She is wearing a black dress, a spiked collar with matching armbands, and a small golden crown. And as you watch, the woman grits her fangs together, and with one final surge of strength, she sends the Koopa's arm crashing triumphantly into the table, spilling drinks and scattering gold coins. There's a chorus of cheers and groans that comes from the assembled monsters.
At this point, she stands up and says, "Woo! Yeah! Undefeated! Undefeated! Except for you, Lakito. Don't let the glasses fool you. That guy has some guns. Must come from throwing all those spinies or something. I don't know how he's so strong, but woo! All right, another round of honey syrup on me."
There's another cheer
let's
from
honey
the assembled
syrup.
monsters as they all clap the woman on the back, as well as her defeated opponent, and begin moving around the bar, heading to get their drinks.
This is a good night, guys. This is a good night. Has anyone seen Kulix? Man, that guy never comes out of his house.
Luna turns to Fiver. You said Bowser's around here nearby, right?
Fiver's looking very confused and says, "Luna, I think that's Bowser."
You know, I can kind of see that. Okay. I don't really know how to approach this then.
Well, Bowser was someone that you knew before, correct? Can't you just go up and say hello?
Well, we didn't part on great terms, but yes, I suppose that would be the best way to start. So Luna goes over to the woman and, clambers up into one of the bar stools near her. Hi, how have you been?
So at this point, the woman is going to turn towards Luna, and then her eyes are going to go wide for a second, and then she's going to try her best to put on a neutral expression and say, "Oh, good. How are you, person I don't know? Please tell me things about yourself, like your name and other things, because I don't know them."
Do you want to go somewhere else to talk? Or do you want me to pretend like we don't know each other? Because I can do either.
Let's get a table in the back. She's gonna say, "Hey guys," to a bunch of spinies that are sitting around a table. She says, "Hey guys, could I have this table for a sec? I need to talk to a friend."
One of them says, "Oh, of course, Bowsette," and they all immediately clear out. One of them even pulls out the chair for you.
So, what do you want?
I was really hoping that whenever I saw you, all the right words would just come floating into my head and I would know exactly what it was that I was going to say. And instead I just want to cry because I'm so relieved that you're okay. I'm sure you remember Nico. Maybe not warmly, but she fell in Phyrexia trying to help us escape. And I never got to tell her how brave she made me feel or how much I admire her. And I never got to brew potions with her or have that book club that she wanted to start. Or tell her just that she was extraordinary. And I didn't want that to happen with you without at least trying to make it right.
I had similar thoughts about wondering what I would say to you if I got a chance to see you again. For a while, they were not very nice things. I had a lot of imaginary arguments with you in my mind. The phrase, "how dare you," came up a lot. You think you're becoming friends with someone and then they betray you like that. I want to tell you that you are wrong and for thinking that of me, and it was terrible, but the more I tried to have these conversations and be honest with myself, I realized that I couldn't really be mad at you because I kind of think you were right to do it. I mean, I didn't have specific plans to betray you, but if we're being honest, given my track record, it was likely to happen at some point.
I really wasn't expecting you to say that.
Did you know that Mario and I were almost friends for a little while?
No.
Yeah, there was this jerk named Smithy. He conquered my castle for a while. Mario helped me defeat him and get my castle back, and while we were working together, I think he and his allies thought that I was just pretending to like him, but that I was really still bad and I was going to turn on him at some point, but really I think I was pretending to pretend to like them, if that makes sense. If I was being honest, I a lot of times really did like being a part of something bigger instead of always having to be the biggest thing in the room.
Yeah, I can understand that. I guess before we get too far into everything, I wanted to give you this before I forgot. And Luna reaches into her bag and pulls out Comic's wand. I accidentally broke it, but I have been working on it, and I think it's working normally again. And she hands it over to the woman, and it has a maroon paisley ribbon on it.
No.
She says, I really like it, but I was honestly never any good at magic. That's why I had Comic do the stuff for me. But, I imagine you'll probably get better use out of it than I would. If you want to give me a present, that's nice, but, I'm probably just going to blow my own foot off with this thing.
Oh, okay. Well, it also just looks nice.
It does. It does look nice. If you want to give me something, it's not a bad scarf you're wearing.
Okay. It was getting warm anyway. You can have the scarf.
She's going to pull the ribbon off and tie it in her hair.
You look really good in maroon paisley.
Well, who doesn't?
That's what I tell people.
It's nice to be able to hang out with you like this. I don't know if you know, but when I was younger, I was kind of soft. My father used to tell me that the strongest thing about a Koopa is that we're hard. We have hard shells, and good Koopas are never soft. Because of that, I never really got a chance to come out of that shell and show people who I really was, and I'm trying to fix things about myself, and me discovering things about myself and getting more comfortable and being able to come out to people is a part of this. I still have a long way to go, but this is a nice, I feel like I'm taking a good first step so far.
Yeah, I think being soft is the hardest thing you can be, but in the different sense of the word hard, but also still in the same sense of the word hard.
I guess, yeah. Or to put it another way, after seeing you and your team fighting, it kind of taught me that just because you're beautiful, it doesn't mean you can't also be strong.
That's really nice. I didn't think about it, but we are all very good looking. Well, I was really prepared to do anything it took to try and make this up to you, because I know that, at least at the time, I really hurt your feelings, and I would never want to treat a friend like that. I would never want to be treated the way that I treated you.
Well, at the time, despite how we were pretending, I don't think we were friends. Not really, but maybe we could be.
That would be really nice.
It's tough, though, because I keep on feeling the pull to go back to my castle where I'll be in control again and be powerful, because I can hang out in this bar for a while, but eventually the fun's going to run out here, and I don't know if I trust myself to not go back to my old ways once I'm sitting back on that throne again.
Do you want to come and be part of the league?
I don't know about that. After all I've done, I don't know if your friends would trust me. They'll just see this is Bowser again. It's his latest trick, as always, that kind of thing, so.
For a while I wondered, whenever I joined the league, why they even had me at all, because they had Nico, and I didn't feel bad about it. I just thought, why would they need me? And then I realized that that's a silly question. They don't need me. The league needs everybody. We don't have the luxury, I don't think, of fighting about those things anymore. I think we just need everybody. And if you want to be part of it, I think the league would be really lucky to have you. If not, just for your arm wrestling skills, which are very good.
They're pretty good. She's going to flex a bicep.
Oh!
There's a contingent of monsters that are seated behind you guys, and half of them faint.
Yeah, I'm pretty great. She laughs and a little bit of fire comes out. I think I would like the chance to be a part of something bigger again.
And this is maybe a long shot, but we all stay together at Castle Grayskull most of the time. And I know maybe you wouldn't feel as comfortable there, but I do have a friend who has another castle. And I don't know if you guys would necessarily get along. You're a little similar in some ways. But
that's great.
Maybe you would like to have a roommate for a while. if you didn't want to stay at Castle Grayskull, maybe that might work. But I think there's lots of other places to stay as well if you don't want to get any Ohana on you.
I don't know. Is it dark? Is there any lava?
I think it's dark and there's lava. Do you know what he calls this place where he lives?
What is it?
He calls it Snake Mountain.
Oh, man. Between Snake Mountain and Castle Grayskull, this sounds like a pretty great place, I gotta say. These sound like some very good evil castles.
There's a lot of good evil castle vibes to be had.
But like evil in a cool way, like a good way,
I think so. I certainly think that there's a lot of aesthetic evil happening and not necessarily a lot of intentional evil happening.
Right, yeah. I think I could get on board with being a good guy maybe a little earlier, but just the black and spikes is so hard to walk away from,
Do you want to come back with me?
Sure. That sounds really good. Do you want to arm wrestle?
You know what? I would love to arm wrestle you.
Okay.
Eventually, the day comes when the memorial service is being held, and Dante is in charge of putting everything together. So Dante, would you like to tell us what the setup is and what we see as the camera opens on this scene?
It needs to be in the basement.
I mean, it's pretty goth.
Yeah, it's goth. I'm gonna say there's candles. Everyone's wearing black. I dyed all the macaroni pieces black.
I brought Bowsette back at the right time.
Oh, you're using that like that coal shit? That like really popular charcoal food? Oh, it's all charcoal? Charcoal
that's
ice cream?
good. Yeah, I like this. Let's have a buffet table. I made a replica of the Staff of One, and everyone like puts their hand on it as they pass and filter into the seats.
Dante, what is the Staff of One replica made of?
Obsidian.
Damn, you just
pretty
found
good.
some obsidian, you chiseled it? That's hardcore.
I was going to assume it was just Lunchables packages.
No, because the
No.
Tasmanian devil ate all of those.
I actually did things for this. Important things.
At some point in the ceremony, Luca, Samus, and Beatrix all get up and say a few words about Racelyn, who they lost at the beginning of the last adventure. And then the space in front is left open in case any of you would like to say a few words about Nico.
Stitch and Lace and Wex are going to go up. Lace is wearing one of those little black women's hats with the like kind of fishnet lace that covers up your eyes.
The veil?
Stitch is wearing a black tie that has not been sized properly. It's kind of dragging in front of him a little bit. They found a black bow tie for Wex, but it's pretty big on him. It's comically adorable.
I thought you were going to say it's just like hanging out of his mouth.
I mean, most of the time. Stitch tries to put it back on him occasionally. And Stitch climbs up to the top of the podium and he adjusts the mic. So, Nico was like a big sister. She was grumpy a lot, but like a good grumpy. Like Nani. But, oh, you don't know who she is. I learned from my last Ohana that you need somebody to be serious sometimes. I know, Dante, I know. It's crazy. But she was like the yin to Luna's yang. And she did a great job of holding this Ohana together and making sure stuff got done. I don't want to use bad language. Sorry again, Dante. And I think I can speak for Lace and Wex, because they can't really speak. So I'm going to speak for them. Okay, guys? And he looks at the two dinosaurs and they just nod. That we're all going to miss her a lot. And the League lost a lot, but it gained so much from having her with what little time it did. Your memory lives on, Nico. We'll march on and we'll make sure we stop Phyrexia for you and whatever world you came from. He jumps down from the podium, gives Dante a high five as he passes by.
So Luna walks up. I know that all of you knew Nico and knew that she was brilliant and clever and funny and so strong, so much stronger than so many of us. And I know that if Nico was here, Nico would say, and then look away because that would be embarrassing. So I'm going to stand up here and say something that I think Nico might appreciate. Nico Minoru was very, very cool, and she will be missed. And Luna goes to sit back down with Venusaur.
One of Venusaur's vines slithers out and just rests comfortably on your shoulder.
So Mordin's going to get up next and go to the podium. Science teaches us that the world is a big, dark place. I knew that back when I was on my world. Science was a little torch that I used to explore that darkness. Then, when I discovered the entire multiverse and the war with Phyrexia, I realized the world was much bigger and much darker than I could have ever imagined. But I also learned that there were many different types of people using different torches to explore that darkness, whether they be science or art, religion, or in Nico's case, magic. I think that she and I started off on opposite sides of that big dark world, but I'd like to think that we were slowly moving towards each other, even if we didn't end up reaching each other in time. And now it's too late, but someday I hope I can at least find that torch of hers and pick it up and keep going.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today to remember the life of Nico Minoru. I wanted to say a few things. Nico, you were a rainbow of darkness. You were quite colorful, but also a little bit scary. But that's cool, because I'm also, like part demon, and so I get that angsty side. You always said some pretty strange things, but they always ended up helping us out. Well, not all the time, but it was entertaining. Can you hear me, Nico? I hope you can.
So now we cut to the wake afterwards. Everyone in the league is hanging out, talking quietly to each other. There is a very large purple and red dinosaur, which is passed completely out in the background. Apparently, the Tyrannosaurus is an absurd lightweight. Bowsette has arrived and is immediately challenging everyone to arm wrestling contests.
She's moved on to headbutting competitions now.
Oh, sure.
She's stepped up, back and forth, just like ramming her head into people. So
yeah, there's certainly plenty of members of the league that will indulge her in that. The night is kind of winding down. Everyone has gotten out their big speeches and their memories and everything, and now there's just kind of this warm sense of belonging and camaraderie and friendship as everyone just kind of clings together and shares memories and makes new ones.
At this point, a small shadow on the ground is going to grow into Vivian, who pops up next to Luna.
Hey.
And she looks the same, except she's wearing black gloves instead of white gloves, and she has a black and pink hat instead of a white and pink hat. Is that Bowser?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna get Ranma, and we'll talk to her.
Okay.
I was going to say Sombra's off to the side with a few other people toasting Nico. Nico was a chingona if I ever met one. Salud! She takes a shot.
Helena is right there with you, and she's not drinking tequila. She just has a bottle of vodka, and every time you say something vaguely about Nico, she's like,
it just hit it.
After everyone finishes their shots, Amethyst gathers all the shot glasses together and then eats the shot glasses.
War Turtle is standing on the bar wearing his formal sunglasses, and he also toasts and says, War Turtle. He takes an entire bottle inside of his shell with him.
So at this point in time, you see Mordin and Luca enter the room, and they're pushing this giant, weird, unwieldy mechanical device on a little cart. They wheel it over to the side of the room, and Mordin says, Hello, everyone. There's a device that I've been working on for a while that I think is going to be really important for the League moving forward. I wanted to take this chance to unveil it, if you'll all gather around.
Mordin, you're literally stealing the thunder at Nico's own funeral. What? This was not on the docket.
He puts his hand on Dante's shoulder and says, Dante, trust me, it'll be fine. Yeah, I've been wanting to repair this for a while. It's mostly original parts, although I had to salvage some things and improvise in some bits, but it's from some version of Earth. I'm not sure which one, but it's called a karaoke machine.
Stitch's eyes just light up, and he's like, yes.
As you know, I'm fond of music, and I always wanted to fix this thing, but it never was as high of a priority as doing something like making weapons, repairing the mind control device, curing the Phyrexian plague, all of those sorts of things. So I think today's a good date, though, to spend some time just working on something that's just fun, just for us. So, all right, everybody, who wants to go first?
I'm gonna go up and start singing, "Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?"
Dante the Tyrannosaurus staggers drunkenly over to you and tries to lean into the microphone and sing along.
Why can't we be friends?
I'm gonna say Stitch goes up. He actually brings his own guitar, Marlene, and he has Lace on bass. They gave Wexter a tambourine, so you can feel included.
After Stitch plugs Marlene into the amplifiers, Mordin frantically runs over to the equalizer and just starts shoving all of the knobs all the way down.
He's gonna say into the mic, "Okay, so I remember Nico listening to this song a while ago. Reach out and touch faith." And he's gonna start singing Depeche Mode's Personal Jesus.
Wow.
Fucking tell me goth-ass Nico does not listen to Depeche Mode.
I wanted to say Luna would sing something really cool, but no. Her parents, were kids in the 70s, and given who her parents are, probably the Muggle music she's most familiar with is going to be Dancing Queen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I'm pretty sure that's what she's going to sing.
You are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17.
I would love to think that Dante and Luna do that as a duet. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? Dante from nowhere pulls a feather boa. And
I
the
love
two of
this.
them are wearing the feather boa at the same time.
Mordin is going to look through the collection and says, not quite as many Broadway numbers as I was hoping for, but I suppose this will do. He starts singing For Good from Wicked. It may well be that we will never meet again in this lifetime, so let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring, by wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
This night comes to a bit of a hazy close. There's a sense of loss, a sense of victory, a sense of friendship, and a renewed sense of what it is that you have to do going forward. Playing Nico Minoru is Miles Schneiderman. Nico, you open your eyes. Looking around, you're lying in a large, plush bed in a well-appointed room displaying aspects of medieval European architecture and furniture. A wooden dresser, a table with chairs, a full-length mirror in a gilded frame. For a moment, you could almost believe that you were back in Castle Grayskull, or even somewhere in Westeros. But then you realize that the walls, ceilings, and floor are not made out of stone, but of dark-colored metal. What do you do?
I mean, I was expecting better of hell, but sure. Is there a door?
There is a door, yes, on the far side of the room.
Alright, is the door locked?
Alright, so you are standing up, getting out of the bed that you were lying in. As you begin to move toward the door, something changes in the room. You can't quite put your finger on what. The air has maybe gotten a bit thicker, or the light seems to be of a slightly different quality. It's as though, like, the laws of physics shifted ever so slightly in this room. But at that moment, you're also suddenly aware that you are no longer alone in the room. Standing near the table is a figure, 6.5 feet tall, dressed in form-concealing gray armor with a gold-colored tunic and a hooded cloak over it. The color scheme is different from what you remember, but the glowering mask removes any shred of doubt that this is the supervillain from your own homeworld named Dr. Doom.
Shit. Hi.
Good afternoon, Miss Minoru. Or are you still going by Sister Grimm?
No, that was a while ago. That was an early thing.
I see. You'll have to forgive me. I do not believe we have ever actually met, but I like to keep informed on up-and-coming American superheroes, particularly those with a magical bent such as yourself.
Oh, man. I reach for my staff to get rid of this guy, but it's not there.
Nah, sure
Son
isn't.
of a bitch. Well, obviously I know who you are. Assuming you're the version of Doom that our American news channels were so familiar with.
I believe so, yes. Tell me, how much did your American news channels tell you about my personal history, Minoru? How much do you know about me?
I know that you don't actually have a son, or if you do, he's not the one that's on my team. That was an Ultron thing. Let's see, I know that... you hate Mr. Fantastic?
Hate is perhaps a not quite accurate word. My feelings for him are intense and complicated, shall we say. But
Right.
all of this is perhaps beside the point.
Oh yeah, that's right. Also, you're a mass murderer and a dictator. That's right, I forgot about that part. And a war criminal.
He actually seems to take this relatively in stride and simply gestures for you to sit down at one of the chairs spread out around the table in the room.
Okay, sure.
He sits down across the table from you and says, I was born in the country of Latveria. At the time, it was under the rule of the selfish and tyrannical King Vladimir. Now, the American media may refer to me as you did as a mass murderer and a tyrant. I am nothing compared to what he was. He spent his life persecuting my people, the Roma. My father met his end in the frozen Latverian Alps, fleeing from the king's soldiers. Thus, when I was able, I returned to my home nation, incited a revolution, and removed the tyrant king from his throne. I became the new ruler of Latveria, and under my rule, the nation achieved an unprecedented level of prosperity, becoming a virtually crime-free world superpower. So, not terribly bad for a tyrant.
I mean, they say that about North Korea too, doesn't make it true.
You can imagine my anger then, Minoru, when I discovered invaders in Castle Doom itself, interdimensional scouts sent from a place called Phyrexia. I dealt with them and traced where they came from, and then I used my technological and mystical might to travel there. I started slaughtering the Phyrexians that I found until I caught the attention of beings that called themselves praetors. I killed 2 of them as well, before the other 3 were finally able to bring me down. Apparently, however, I had attracted the interest of the ruler of that place, the so-called Father of Machines. At his command, the praetors brought me before him, which was, of course, precisely as I had planned.
Oh, of course.
Only I emerged from the throne room that day, the new Father of Machines. I had overthrown yet another tyrant. With Phyrexia under my control, I could ensure that Latveria would never be threatened by it again. Phyrexia's predations could be directed elsewhere.
Where have you been directing them? Because it seems to us that Phyrexia has been behaving exactly as it did before.
With one notable exception, and one that you, I believe, should take to heart. Those that you refer to as your friends, the superheroes in California, they are now safe from Phyrexia forever because of my efforts. Our homeworld shall never be menaced by this plane again.
Couldn't you just destroy them, and then we would also never be menaced by them again?
Doom's gaze shifts off of you for a moment as he stares off at some invisible point and says, Phyrexia is many things, Minoru, one of which is insatiable and unstoppable. I may be sitting in the throne as the Father of Machines, but there is too much momentum behind it now. It cannot be stopped. It can only be redirected.
Well, you say that, but I know some people who are working on stopping it for good, so we'll just see what happens.
Yes, those friends of yours that have been so consistently attempting with limited success to hamper the progress of Phyrexia. I'm certain you have some interesting stories about them. My praetors tell me that just before you were captured, you used your magical power to send these friends of yours away from Phyrexia, presumably back to whichever dimension you had come from, yes?
That's about right.
Yet, you yourself did not join them. Why did you not transport yourself as well?
I mean, you know, I'm just super altruistic.
Oh, were you now? Because I have a different thought as to why precisely this happened. I believe you lacked the power to do so. I can see many parallels between us. the endless and rapacious pursuit of arcane skill, pulling knowledge and power from wherever we can, each new breakthrough only further fueling our desire for the next. You have certainly come a long way from where you began, and yet, when you were put in a difficult place, it wasn't enough. I think, and you can tell me what you think about this, that what you need is someone who has walked the same path that you have with the same goals in mind, someone who understands your drive. And, thanks to Phyrexia, I have accumulated magical knowledge from 1,000 worlds, more than I could have ever hoped to gain if I had remained on Earth. So, what would you say if I were to offer you the chance to study this knowledge at my side?
My pursuit of magical power and my drive, as you put it, is all tied into stopping the force that you're currently in command of.
Well, then what better way for you to learn about this force, no? Surely you do not think yourself so weak-willed that I could break you, that I could brainwash you or force you into doing something that you do not want to do. All I offer you is power, which is, to speak frankly, what you have been lacking in your quest so far.
I don't trust you, and usually in a teacher-student relationship, some level of trust is required.
I'm not asking you to trust me, but surely you recognize the power that I wield, and the knowledge that you seek to gain by accepting my offer.
Your goal is to keep the Phyrexians away from our world.
It has always been that way. I may not be sitting on the throne of Latveria anymore, but they are still my people, and I will do everything I can. I will move universes if I need to ensure that they remain safe.
So, you're offering to teach me more about magic, even though I don't have my staff anymore. It's gone, it's broken.
Do you see me with a staff?
I mean, that's... okay.
You do not need your staff. Your staff was holding you back. Your staff was offering you easy answers. I do not offer you easy answers, Nico. I only offer you knowledge.
And if, over the course of learning this knowledge, I discover a way to permanently end the Phyrexian threat...
I suppose that will be an interesting day for all of us. I do not believe that will happen, but perhaps you will prove me wrong. All I ask is that you remain open to what I have to offer you. I will let you make up your own mind about what to do with what I give you.
Alright.
Good. Now then, if I am to enter into such a pact with you, Minoru, I need to know that you will be truthful. So to that end, I must ask you. And at this point, Doom holds up the blue crystalline amulet that you were given when your team entered into Phyrexia in search of the fourth gem. What precisely is this? Extraordinary League is produced by Dan Mulkerin, with logo design by Claire Mulkerin.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Motherload, and to TabletopAudio.com for our background music and ambient sound effects.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
Oh, that was a close one. Yeah, that was a close one.
This is so bad. All right, now we're in London.
No,
I'm feeling it.
Hold on. Here we go. Get rid of all that. We're gonna start that over. Cause yeah, I totally went Dundee on that. Knife, Fosters. Okay.
Put a Foster's there. Bob is dying.
I just love listening to Liz shout the words knife and Foster so much. It's
Crocodile.
so good.